Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today we're breaking down the 5 best and the 5 worst leaders in Dune, Uprising, and the Bloodlines expansion, which is important because I think Bloodlines is going to come central into this conversation on both ends, actually, on both ends of the scale, because Dune Uprising simplified the leaders in favor of a more complex board, and Bloodlines starts to equalize those measures a little bit. We have another video where we did this with the original Dune Imperium and the Rise of Ix expansion, which are, a pair of eggs combined. Like you've seen like an egg inside an egg, like a duck inside a turkey, like a chicken can birth an egg with an egg inside of it. That's like Dune and Rise of Ix. Like the box came and it was never complete until Rise of Ix existed, and now they just always get shuffled together and always set out on the table.
Okay, I've never heard that metaphor in my life, but go on.
As one. Where do you want to start? You want me to begin? You want you to begin?
Go for it. Go for it. I started the last one. You start with this one.
I'm going to start this one hungry. First off, by letting you all know that we're going to save the worst ones for the end of the video to trick you into watching all of it. Totally not timestamps down below or the ability to skip through commercial breaks by, moving a mouse pad on your keyboard. I'm going to start with literally my favorite faction, I believe, in the entire game of Dune.
Ooh.
I'm starting with the Steersman Y'rkoon.
Y'rkoon? I don't know.
Y'rkoon. Who are they, lore-wise? Do you know who these guys are?
Yes, so the Steersmen, they belong to the Spacing Guild. They're the ones who navigate the Highliners that are the only way to fold space and travel safely in between star systems. They use the spice. They use an incredible amount of spice. They've been kind of metamorphosized to this weird, not even barely human form, to be able to see through space and figure out the appropriate way to actually navigate through space without running into like a planet or a star or something like that.
Interesting. I like them even more now. Mm-hmm. I'm actually kind of confused as to why they aren't ranked a level 4 on complexity, because the amount of pre-planning that they dictate and the way they program your experience is why I love them so much. So, Strange Form. You start the game with no water and without a signet ring in your deck. That's massive.
Well, physically, I don't even know if they could have a ring, but
I'm just saying, that is a big debuff. They better have an answer for it.
Oh yeah.
Hungry for spice. Whenever you gain 3 spice or more in a single turn, draw a card. That's nice. Extra little card draw, bonus. You're going to be eventually getting some extra spice. You're going to be getting some locations that have filled up. That's a nice thing to have. Here's where the entire system shines. Plot course. This replaces the signet ring function. Game start. Shuffle the navigation cards and draw a hand of 5. Choose 4 to place face down above in order. Return all others to the box. Whenever you reach 2 influence with a faction, play the next navigation card above, starting from the left. You have a deck of maybe 10 or 12 navigation cards. These cards include things like conditional rewards. Score a victory point if you have X number of resources, or if you have influence on this track, or score a victory point if this is the second in your programming order, and you've achieved this thing like you're sitting on the High Council already. I don't know specifically. Yeah. We could draw the cards, but I don't want to work through them. You set those cards 1, 2, 3, 4. And throughout the duration of the game, you contort and transform your play style to make sure you receive the rewards on the program that you set up. It's like you set the notes in the dial. You tell yourself the rewards you want to get as the game continues, and then as long as you've played the game you agreed to play, you will get those rewards. You're looking into the future. You're seeing the folding of space, the game as it exists, and you're rewarded for doing so. And I love that. I love the fact that I set the tonality. I love the abilities, and I love the fact that there are not only resource bonuses that vary, but victory point bonuses that vary based on this faction ability. It is the most consequential faction, both for high and low. If I don't play this faction well, I've lost a water and a signet ring ability. That is brutal. The signet ring gives you access to yellow, purple, and green. That is brutal. However, if I do play this well, it could sing me to victory.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think the first time we played Bloodlines together, I think you ended up having
the one
this
I picked.
one. And I looked at, and this was one of the two that I wanted to play with the most in that first match, was this, because I loved the idea of having, those navigation cards. I didn't put him in my top 5, but I did.
It's because you haven't played with him yet.
But it's probably because I haven't played with him.
Just so you know, I would choose to never play another faction again if that was a optional choice for the game.
Oh, wow.
Like, I would default to just rewrite every faction in this game to have their own little custom deck of cards and script their experience. I understand that's probably not best for everyone, but for me, this was so rewarding and so cool, so unique compared to the other ones that just give you a bonus or change worker placement locations. This was programming in a game that doesn't have any type of programming outside of thinking through turn structure and drafting some extra cards. Loved it.
Yeah, I would love to play this guy.
All right, I talked a lot on him, though. I'm so excited about him.
Indeed. So I don't have the same passion for this guy, but I still think he's pretty cool to play with here. And it is Shaddam Corrino IV.
You didn't say it right.
It's Shaddam. You want me to try to do the Christopher?
You backed off.
I did.
You noticed that I've never once, not even in private, tried to do a Christopher Walken impression.
But it's so easy. And especially if you're talking about pocket watches.
But it's so easy.
It's very...
I don't know I'm not an impressionist.
No. We're not actors. We are definitely not actors. No, but...
I can do hick real well, but I grew up there.
I wasn't going to say it.
I lost my accent when I learned to put on shoes.
But yeah, so Sardaukar Commander, you get the Sardaukar contracts, which are right here. Only you can acquire them during the game, which, as we said in a different video, when you are able to, you have to cash in all the contracts you can, and you can do multiple in a single turn. So the idea of, I can go to this one spot and I can draw 2 cards and recall an agent.
At some point in the game, I can do this, and this is big.
This is huge for me. And the other one is, I really enjoy the Signet Ring ability, even though they can't be deployed to the conflict this turn, but if you're in a spot where you have a decent amount of money, just by playing the Signet Ring, which you're not going to any of the faction spots, but you're able to pick up.
Yeah, by your influence.
Somebody who says, aha, I have stopped you because I have gone on both of the Bene Gesserit spots, for example. And you're not going to get to that alliance token before I am. Sorry, I'm going to play my Signet Ring. I have enough money to do it. Or maybe I go to a spot that gives me money, maybe like the Spice Refinery over there. I've gotten my money, and that almost acts as a default go up 1 influence on one of those tracks. And it's on any one of those tracks. And I can use that to my advantage, along with possibly gaining some more money if I want to go to the High Council later, if I want to get a Swordmaster after somebody else has done it. That's to me, is a pretty good ability.
They did Christopher Walken right with this card.
They did.
You can't hurt this man's reputation. Just for the record.
Yeah.
But you would have hurt the game's reputation if you'd given him a bad card.
Oh yeah. But I gotta say, there should have been more cowbell.
There should have been a little bit more cowbell. My next one. Could you please give me a Staban Tuek? I don't know how to say any of these names, by the way. You're going to have to help with all of them.
Staban Tuek.
So, limited allies. You start the game without diplomacy in your deck. Another pretty big hit. Your buy power is restricted. Smuggle Spice. Whenever another player sends an agent to a maker board space you're spying on, gain some spice. Unseen Network. With your Signet Ring, you're going to be able to place down a lovely little spy. Then, if you placed him on a green location, you can trade spice for money. That's super valuable because money's how you go to green locations. It's how you do everything up there. If you place them on a house location, you can trade money for influence. That's super valuable because house locations are great to go to in the first place, and influence cards are very, very strong in Uprising. I think about intrigue cards. I think about a third of them give you the opportunity to score victory points directly, and the other ones are just modifying things like your battle power and the resources you have on hand.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think I've actually seen enough of the intrigue cards for Uprising to know what the actual balance is between them.
It feels like that to me.
It can feel like that, but I do enjoy the whole interplay of I'm going to put a spy down, and even if I, let's say, put it on one of the yellow spots that gets spice, you might think, well, I don't get any benefit from this, but then looking over to here, somebody goes over there. Yeah. Somebody goes to the Imperial Basin, for example. I'm going to get a free spice just for that.
The reason why I have him here is twofold. First off, I think he is a responsible leader. He directs your attention in a way that is beneficial towards your entire gameplay. Spies are valuable. Spies are more valuable than they pretend to be in a typical game of Uprising. They give me so much opportunity to draw up cards, to go where I need to go, to get cards from the market and open up board spaces that I would never be able to go to because the way I've built my deck. He tells you and reminds you constantly that spies are worthwhile and gives you an opportunity to put them down. But on top of that, alongside that, he enhances, like you're pointing out, the spy ability, which means this thing that is way more important than I think it displays itself as is actually made more important. And therefore, if I play with him, I'm playing a much more strategic, much more responsible game, and I'm rewarded and enjoying the process of doing so. Whereas right now, if I play with spies, I almost always begrudgingly utilize spies. I did one game session where I went heavy deck building on the spy mechanic, and it was fun.
Very enthusiastic.
But I don't want to play every game doing a heavy deck building on the spy mechanic. I found it really cool, but outside of that, spies are so important and they feel so bleh. This guy changes the script for me. I like him a lot.
He's good. So my next one that I'm going to talk about is Liet Kynes. And I think this was the one I played with in our first game of Bloodlines. Here was her. I'm
going to cross off the first one on my hate it list.
Oh, you didn't like her?
No.
See, I did. I don't think I played it to the fullest. I think we figured that out at the end of the game. But I still really enjoy the ability, and especially thematically, if you've read the books, I feel like some of the abilities that she brings kind of align with what the character of Liet Kynes is in the book.
Give me context for that, because I don't know.
So Liet Kynes in the book, she is, in the book, so the movie, she's a woman. In the book is actually, and in the original Dune movie is a man who is in charge, basically at the same time as being the Imperium's resident planetologist on Arrakis or Dune, so works for the Empire, for the Emperor. Liet is also at the same time the leader of the Fremen in secret, like the actual, the head person for the Fremen. So there's the dichotomy of person who works for the Empire, for the Imperium, but who's actually also trying to make the world better for the Fremen.
Okay.
So for example, I'll do the Signet Ring ability here first. If you sent an agent this turn to a green spot, if you happen to have 2 influence with the Imperium, you're gaining a water. And I think thematically, consider it, it addresses the fact that this person works for the Fremen, who are all about maximizing water, but also has to deal with the Imperium as well.
Sure.
If you go to a circle space, you get 1 money, which could be useful. You go to a harvest space, basically, and you're going to get an extra spice.
You know the sands. You know the dunes.
You know the dunes, basically. Again, thematically, love it. The planetologist ability, I just absolutely love. So first of all, ignore the influence requirement of Siege Tower. You can go there, right away. Your first move in the game could be to bust the shield wall. It could be. I wouldn't recommend it.
I just don't care about that.
But it's a fantastic spot to go to.
The water resource is nice.
Yeah,
access to water is nice.
It's permanent. It's early access to a very nice water spot that doesn't require you to spend like the diplomacy card or seek allies card or some kind of card that utilizes the ability to go to the spacing guild.
Yeah.
It is just a regular card that you have plenty of in your deck, and you can immediately gain water.
And water is very hard to come by and very valuable because the way that you utilize it to not only collect spice but recruit worms. It's a compelling argument.
Well, speaking of the sandworms, the catch is you may summon no sandworms, which is kind of a detriment because the Fremen kind of do summon sandworms.
This is why I have her on my worst. That line right there. Sandworms are the crux of Uprising.
That's true.
I don't play with them often. I don't actually like recruiting them. But for a card to just tell me straight up, don't summon them. Okay, I mean, don't summon the one thing that has the potential to like sway the end game victory pretty substantially, as far as I can. I don't know. I feel like it discourages a very important part of the game.
I hear that, but for me personally, I love the deck building aspect of this game in general, and so the idea of instead of grabbing a sandworm, you get to trash a card, so you get to cull the deck. Keep your more powerful ones. You get a spice and those intrigue cards that you mentioned that can be more powerful in this version of the game. You could be very secretive, get a bunch of cards that give you extra points at the end, and even without having necessarily been too involved in the combat, which you can still do, especially in Bloodlines by getting the Sardaukar commanders, which have their own issues. But those spice also can pile up. You can go to the highliner as well. I think there's a lot of that kind of where it feels like you're working from behind the scenes rather than being open. But I see where you're going.
I have her on my worst because that single line that says I cannot recruit sandworms. I want to play her now after listening to you discuss this, specifically because I want to try a strategy that I don't often try. I usually keep my influence cards below 3, meaning I'm scoring a maximum. Intrigue cards. I'm scoring a maximum of 3 victory points there. Typically, it's 1 or 2 with one card that's being held on to either as a resource buff or a usually fighting buff, right? With her, I might lean towards a different strategy that involves 20 intrigue cards in my hand. Get as many as possible so that you can score 6 victory points, and if someone steals from you and continues to steal from you, they're unlikely to draw something that is consequential. That's my only issue, is if you're hovering in the 4 to 5 range, if you haven't overcommitted on those cards, you'll be in a position where people steal from you and they take the thing you need all the time. I would play her, and I would specifically lean into, go to the Bene Gesserit spot that gives me extra. Go recall my worker and allow me to swap through the ones. Let me dig. Let me find the stuff that gives me victory points to try to make up for the fact that this leader has restricted my ability to summon a sandworm.
And also, just because I just noticed it right now, because of that kind of interaction with the Imperium, with the Emperor track, there's also that Imperial privilege spot there as well, that once you've gotten to 2 influence there, now you've unlocked this ability here, but you've also unlocked that.
Yeah.
To cycle through more of those intrigue cards and the ability to recall agents.
Yeah. I see a strategy with her. I think it's a narrow strategy.
It is, but that's why she's a 3.
But I do actually want to play with her now. So there you go.
Happy to convince you.
Moving forward, please give me a Peter de Versus.
You mean Peter de Vries?
Yeah, I'll take him.
And this is the first time in this game, in this video.
We're matching up?
We're matching up.
Okay, all right.
I love this guy.
I'll read his Signet Ring ability then, and you go through his Twisted Genius. You cannot deploy this troop to the conflict this turn. His Signet Ring is going to go ahead and give him 1 extra little combat cube, which seems unconsequential, you'd think, especially if it's going into your barracks, but this game focuses so much, Uprising focuses so much on combat that I actually find myself often enough just wishing I had a few extra people ready to go when I go to a location that has an X, or when I have a card that's in my deck that modifies and gives me an X, allowing me to deploy. This guy pairs very well with any type of combat-focused system, but that's not why we love him.
That's not why we love him.
Talk about it. You played him. I haven't played him yet. I've played against him twice.
I did. So the ability Twisted Genius. So you get, at the beginning of the game, you get this special deck of intrigue cards that only you can draw from. You get one of these cards at the beginning of every round. They can be stolen, under normal circumstances, just like any of the other intrigue cards. Let's say somebody goes to that one Bene Gesserit spot and you happen to have more than 4 intrigues. But some of these cards can give you so many wonderful things here. So, because Piter ends up giving you so many intrigue cards, maybe instead of worrying about somebody stealing one, maybe you didn't get a good one, and you can just basically sell it. Okay, here, you take this card, and I'm going to get a couple of spice for it. I think I gave you one card last game, which you did end up using.
It was a useful card, actually. It allowed me to swap. I think I did it to you.
You did it to me.
It allowed me to swap a spy with someone else's, in a location. I told you to move on, and I put my own guy there. Yeah. It was nice to have.
But it was something that at the time, I didn't need that card, and I was running into having 4 intrigue cards. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to use this to get 2 spice, and then I use that spice to go get something else.
Yeah.
Or maybe you want to get, maybe you have a card that would be useful, but only if you had one of those icons. I mean, how many times when you have a card, let's say with the spy icon, right? And it's, I want to be able to play something. I want to be able to use this ability, or maybe I want to go somewhere specific and I only have this card in my hand. And then now, okay, I have extra playability with it. Some of them can also be conflict cards, which I think I used this one in particular, I think I used last game, which was to gain an intrigue card and a money for losing 2 of my troops. If you think you're not going to win, okay. Or in my case, last game, where I realized the difference between second and third, if I played this card, I would get more for playing this card and being in third than for finishing in second.
I think you gave me second then. I was very pleased.
Indeed. But it gave me more stuff overall for being in third and gaining this extra bonus. So I love the idea of having that Piter has his own intrigue deck. I think it fits also thematically completely well, considering his character.
Yeah, I love the confidence that Bloodlines has taken in terms of introducing truly asymmetric parts of the game experience into factions now. He is one of my top leaders now because he just gives me this fun little module to play. And I have to reference back to Root, or Vast, the leader game style definition of asymmetry in the board game genre. I like when games get closer and closer to that. I want to play a different puzzle every time I play. I understand the board's the same. I understand the cards the same. I understand the thing I'm doing to score victory points is the same in essence. But this alone, or the programming that I had at the very beginning with the Starfarers, that changes the entire experience of play.
Oh, yeah.
What's your next one?
So my next one, I haven't played with her yet, but I cannot wait to do so. I've already figured out what I want to do is the Reverend Mother Superior herself, Gaius Helen Mohiam. So first off, the clandestine ability. Each card you play has that little spy icon. You can always go to where one of your spies happens to be overlooking.
If you're playing a spy-focused game.
Which, well, I'll get to that.
Very powerful.
Whenever you could recall a spy to gather intelligence, though, you must.
So you've got to recall to draw a card.
Yeah. You always have to do that.
If you've went to that location.
If you've gone to that location, yeah. But here's the thing. The Signet Ring ability allows you to either, for free, put a spy on one of those green spots, which can be very useful.
Only 2 of them, though.
Well, yeah, there's two. There's
only
2 spy spots there, but it can still be useful. Or you spend 1 spice, you can put it anywhere you want. And again, that combined with every card I play has that spy icon. Everywhere I go, I can just put it there. I can go there, immediately draw a card as well, and then put my spy somewhere else, go there. It really, I think you would enjoy it because I think it brings kind of that chaos to...
I think I would enjoy it. She's not on my high, and she's not on my low. I think I would enjoy it. I think it could be a very powerful faction to play as. I'm concerned that the need to focus on the spy mechanic might be a little bit hamstrung.
It could be.
Again,
I'm looking very forward to playing.
The spy mechanic is super important to the game, and also I have found it almost always to be a little lackluster. Not because it's not strategically important, just because it's not as fun. Summoning sandworms is more fun. Getting cool cards in my deck, having a big play where I have like lots of military, no one is... All that is more fun than just having some spies out on the board. I understand strategically, this is really powerful. It just might not be enjoyable.
But here's the thing, and you're talking about with sandworms, you could theoretically post one of those spies onto one of the sandworm spots. And then, oh, you think you've stolen the ability for me to summon a sandworm? No, you haven't. I'm going to go there too.
Yeah.
You know.
I want to play as her.
I want to also. I think she's going to be a lot of fun.
And you talking it through has made me more engaged. I'm more intrigued. I like it.
Yep.
All right. Do you have a Muad'dib?
Yes.
Is this on your list?
Muad'dib is not on my list.
Ooh.
Neither is Usul, but...
Okay. Reveal turn. This is a simple one. I just like this one, though. It's clean, straightforward, and rewarding. Reveal turn. If you have one or more sandworms in the conflict, gain a intrigue card. Again, these are powerful cards. They can give you extra victory points, which doubles up on how effective the sandworms are already. And they can give you extra bonus resources and extra power in the combat that you're already engaged in. Along with that, I just love a draw card ability, especially with a deck that's going to give me a lot of useful lower value cards. I like the Signet Ring giving me from the get-go the ability to draw up. You saw that in the other list that I made as well. It's always something that matches with me. The reason I put this on my list, though, is because this is the most responsible character to give to a new player.
Yes.
Encourage a new player to get a sandworm. Tell a new player from their character, from the get-go, that their whole objective, the whole thing they should be doing is get a sandworm into a conflict, get a reward for doing so, and support them in that journey by letting them draw extra cards when they play their Signet Ring. Easy, straightforward, and the correct way to play the game if you're learning the ropes.
Yeah, so if it wasn't for what you just mentioned about introducing for new players, this might have ended up actually being in my worst 5.
Really?
Especially compared to what Paul is in the base Dune Imperium.
Sure.
Like, I almost want that one instead rather than this. Like, I appreciate, and especially thematically, Muad'dib interacting with the sandworms. Like, that makes sense to me. But it's like, okay, it's if I have one.
Well, interacting with sandworms and also in a way seeing and gaining into the future.
Yeah, I get that, and I appreciate the idea of drawing extra cards. He's not in the bottom 5 for me, but it's also like I want more than just that.
This one is here, not because I would necessarily choose him, but I teach this game to a lot of people, and Uprising is a harder teach.
Yep.
This is the card you hand a new player. Every time. Don't even give them a draft. Just say, you're playing this, he's a cool character, you've seen him in the movies, go for it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And that's again, part of the reason why he's not in my bottom 5. Is I agree. It's very useful for you're introducing this game to new players.
Yeah, and also I'd love to play him if no one wants him, I'll take him.
So for me, and this one is actually probably my number 1 here at this moment.
Really?
Yes.
The Reverend Mother is on my negative list.
Really?
Let's talk about it.
So this one is actually double-sided.
I didn't even flip her over.
Yes. So you start off with her as Lady Jessica.
Never mind. She might not be on my negative. All I was doing was looking at the Reverend Mother. Tell me what's happening here. I need to rethink everything. I did not realize there was a back to this.
Oh, yeah. This is one of the cool things is, and it also, again, because I love the Dune universe, this is also very thematic where she starts off in the books as kind of, just a basic Bene Gesserit and then becomes a Reverend Mother during the book. So first of all, you have this So let's start with the Signet Ring. Spice Agony. You spend 1 spice, you draw an intrigue card, and move a troop from your supply to the Bene Gesserit area of the board. It is now a memory. What do these memories do? Other memories. When you send an agent to a Bene Gesserit board space, you may return all your memories to your supply, drawing a card for each one, and then flip. So you can kind of stack, especially if you've culled your deck enough. You're able to the point where you're able to get this out a couple of times. Maybe you're able to draw 3 cards with 1 action here. Or if you go to the espionage one, you're gaining an extra one and you're getting a spy.
That is very compelling.
And then it's, I'm going to get this huge turn, this huge reveal. I may possibly get a Spice Must Flow, or maybe there's a big card that's out here that's going to give me a huge ability for later in the game, and I can just grab it early because I had that spot to just grab a bunch of cards into my deck.
That's a fun way to start the game. Let's see if it counteracts the fact that this side of the card I did put on my worst.
Yeah. So her Signet Ring ability on this side is definitely not as good as on the other side. So you have to kind of figure out how you're going to time the flip, where it's spending a spice to get a water.
I'm reading through the abilities here and I'm realizing something, Corey, and
Yes.
you're going to laugh a lot. This is on my negative list because I've played as her before.
You played her wrong?
What do you think I did?
You just kept her on this side the entire time?
I didn't realize there was a second side. So imagine it from this point on, imagine it as if this is the experience that I had, not the other side.
Right, but
I
you
played
kinda
it-
need both.
I played it like all the other, like I'm sitting here, I'm like, no. I have experienced this card before. I have played her. I had no idea there was a second side and she rotated.
Yeah.
So
So once you're on this second side,
yeah.
then once during each turn when you send an agent to the Bene Gesserit, because you've already gone to the Bene Gesserit
No,
spots before.
it gets worse than this. I've played her twice.
And played her wrong both times.
I know for a fact I have played her twice.
Yep. But this is why she's my favorite. You can spend a water to repeat the effect printed on that space. You have a Signet Ring that's going to give you water.
Yeah, well, if you start the game with her, all you end up doing is using your Signet Ring, spending spice for water, spending water, which is the only thing you start the game with, on duplicating an action, and then you have nothing left. It just exhausts all your resources. You know what would be really good? If there was a way to, like, make it to the middle of the game with some interesting stuff before you start utilizing all of your resources. Early game, I found that this just wasted my resources.
Yeah.
It's because I didn't realize there was another side.
That's what I'm saying.
I've played her twice.
Yeah, if you time it appropriately, you get a bunch of cards. You can get a powerful card here, or you may even get Spice Must Flow, which Spice Must Flow is going to give you an extra spice.
Do you have to read the rulebook to realize there's another side to her? Because you don't flip any of these other ones over.
This is the only one in which you flip.
How did you know there was another side? Because I would never assume, which is what I've done now multiple times.
I think it was when I first opened the box. The very first thing I'm like, okay, what are the leaders here? That was the first thing I looked at, and I think it must have been on this side, and then it said, and then flip this leader over. Like, what do you mean flip this leader? Oh, there's something on the back here.
I've only ever discovered her on this side and never assumed there was another side.
Yeah. Huh. This is why, by the way, if you remember, when I went to shuffle, to randomize the leaders before our last game, I did it under the table. Because unlike these other ones that have the player aid on the back, where I could have just, shuffled it above the table, otherwise, you're going to know which one is Jessica.
This is so crazy to me, actually. So crazy to me. I feel like they should have put start on other side or something on this.
On the other side of this card?
This should have been on our list of 10 rules you might miss. This has impacted 2 big games. I like her a lot more now. That's cool.
Yeah.
She's off my negative list. I mean, she's on it still because the game designer, but off of it because she's intriguing. Could I have a last one on the positive list? A Gurney Halleck?
Gurney Halleck?
Whatever. I spelled it great.
There's an H there.
I have this guy here, again, similar to why I had Muad'dib. So we'll go through this guy quickly. Always smiling, which I like. I just like that little bit of flavor text. Reveal turn, which his artwork indicates that he's not actually. If you have 6 or more strength in the conflict, gain a buy. It's nice to have. It encourages you. It encourages you in the right direction. And the deck is full of cards that modify combat. So this gives you extra buy power, encourages you to focus on combat in a game that rewards combat focus and has a deck that can be built around combat. I think it's a responsible new player card. Signet Ring gives you a cube. Cubes are great because they just start flowing into the battle system. I think out of all of the stuff we have here for Uprising, this guy centers you and just supports your ability to engage in combat. I don't think he's fun. I think he's responsible.
So I hate to disagree with you.
He's on your negative list.
He is number 1 on my negative list.
Oh, tell me why.
Yeah, because I get that Uprising kind of requires you to focus more on combat, but especially early on in the game, you're not going to have many turns where you're going to get 6 or more strength in the middle. That's 3 units, which you're not necessarily going to get too early.
You could do it right from the get-go.
You can do it. You can do it the first
one
round,
extra unit in the 2 that you have, and then as you start buying if you buy a decent card, like imagine that this 1 extra pushes you up to where you get a 5 or a 6 card.
But the biggest way for you to accumulate strength in the conflict is going to be gaining through units or through sandworms.
Yeah.
And that's going to take you a while to accumulate back up to the spot where you're going to have 6.
He's gifting you.
He's gifting you 1. But again, it's like, I kind of want more. I want more of an ability.
Again, I'm not saying he's the most fun or the most intriguing.
Yeah.
I think he actually supports early game more than you're giving him credit for. I think he actually lays a really strong foundation to continually have extra buy power, and I like extra buy power. I really do.
I hear you. I want more.
We should play our worst rated and our best rated against each other and just see.
See what happens?
Yeah, that's got to be a video in the future. We played our worst. We played our least favorite factions. We played our most favorite factions.
I think
that would be fun.
That would be fantastic.
All right, we've got an idea.
All right, so now I think we're on to the...
We're moving on to our least favorite.
Least favorite.
If you don't have any more in your positive,
I have no more on my positive.
Who you hate.
We're going to go with the lady...
I have 3 left. What do you have left?
I have 4 left.
4 left, okay.
I'm going to go with the Lady Amber Metulli. Actually, I don't know if you have her on here.
Not on mine.
So, the Desert Scout's ability, on a reveal turn, you can retreat one of your troops. Yay. Like okay, if I know I'm about to lose, maybe I can keep one for the next combat. Okay, sure. And the Signet Ring ability is I gain 1 money. Oh, but if you have an alliance, you gain 1 spies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's not the greatest of abilities. Like, again, as we were talking about Gurney Halleck, I want... This is it? This is all that I get?
And not only that, but it's offensive to me because it doesn't direct you in a good direction.
Yeah.
I don't want to retreat my troops from combat. I don't need to. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get more of them in the future. They're disposable.
Yep.
I do want to rush to an alliance, I suppose. So, like, maybe that's positive, but the bonus for having it is fairly weak in context to what everyone else is going to be getting.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I just...
And that's a lot. That's 4.
You're
3 or 4 turns into the game before you're benefiting from that. You're mid-game by now. You've already oriented yourself in one direction that doesn't align with whatever this is.
Yep.
Okay. Could I please have the count?
Aha.
You see on your list?
Hasimir Fenring?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he's on my bad list.
Whenever you trash a card, gain $1. One Solar.
$1.
He's generous. And then his signaling ability, you may trash a card in your play area, or you could place a extra spy
In the deep cover.
in deep cover on the Imperium.
Yeah. Just on the Imperium. Why?
Thanks, man. Like, the Imperium's a hard place to go to. It gives me either objectives or a place that I won't be able to play to for a lot of the game because it's so expensive and I don't need just 4 people sitting in my barracks. You give me the ability to trash a card with a signet ring. Okay. I don't have so many cards early game to trash. I don't want to throw everything out of my hand. It's actually kind of a painful decision to do that. You're making a core strategic choice. And you're going to give me a coin for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your reward. It is not. He is not paying fair market value for what I am doing.
Not worth it. I don't understand the design decision for this one.
I don't know who signed off on this one.
I don't know. I mean, at least this is somebody mentioned in the books.
Hear me out. Maybe they hate this guy.
I mean, he's not a great character.
I'm just saying, maybe the game designers, like, secretly, they don't intend for anyone to play this. They just actually hate this character, and they want us to hate him as well.
Yeah.
You got to have some of that. You know, in the books they have that. Like,
That's true.
You got to have some of that here.
Absolutely.
He sucks.
Absolutely.
Who's next?
So speaking of Count Fenring, we have his wife, the Lady Margot Fenring.
She's not on mine.
She's not on your list. Again, that idea of I get to this one spot where I get to 2 influence on the Bene Gesserit.
I've played as her. I was so disappointed.
Yeah.
2 Spies.
2 Spies.
I focused. Like, I was like, yes, you're telling me to hit that mark. Doing it.
2 Spies. I think we had this when we talked about the leaders in the other game.
Yeah, we did. And it just expires.
It expires, and it's unsatisfying.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, are you going to balance this with having an amazing signet ring ability? No, you get to have a spy on the circles.
Yeah. You know what's worse by this is out of all the tracks early game that you could go on, that you should go on, the Bene Gesserit is the least of these.
I would argue with the Spacing Guild, but
the Spacing Guild, at least it
gives you a water, but
well, not only that, but at least you can unlock the ability to go over here to the additional triangle location. The water is very hard to come by, and eventually you're going to want to compete for that 5 spice deployment.
True.
And so,
but you end up you have easy access to these cards that give you extra benefits for being 2 influence on the Bene Gesserit.
So you can buy and make the most of it. I hear that there's a larger strategy. If I'm taking my first action of the game, I don't need to be spending spice to draw a card and play a spy, and I don't need to be going for intrigue because I'm not getting the secondary benefit, which is steal from other people. No one has 3. It's just a bad way to set the framework for how you should play.
Yeah.
I think they chose that because it's thematic to her. I think it's the wrong way to set up a new player, and a new player is the most likely person to pick this because an experienced player would never choose that card. Could I please have Esmar Tuek?
Esmar Tuek.
Esmar Tuek. I hate you. I do. So he is one of these that is actually doing something that I like. That that the Bloodlines expansion is doing. I like them introducing intrigue cards. I like them introducing the plot, the timeline. I think those mechanics are great. I don't like this one. I'm intrigued by it, but my concern, and let me be very clear, I have not played as him, and I have not played against him yet. So this is a little bit of a predictive. Mm-hmm. But my concern is that you're introducing a new worker placement location to the map, and everyone who's already played this map is going to not factor it into their larger strategic decisions because it's not normally there and it doesn't integrate or place itself in a location that tells me to go there often.
Plus also, if I know that there's this one spot that's always, for the entire game, going to give you some kind of extra bonus, I'm going to try my best to avoid it.
You're discouraged from going there. So, whenever you send an agent to Turek, Steek, or whatever, you gain 1 coin. Whenever an opponent sends an agent there, they gain an intrigue card. or a teammate in a 6-player game, which
We're not
no
going to talk
one
about the 6-player game.
plays. As far as I'm aware, the 6-player game has never been played.
It's okay, Jesse.
And then you have your Signet Ring ability, place 1 bonus spice on the Steech, and take 1 bonus spice from or take 1 bonus spice from a maker board space. So what you're doing is you have this worker placement location where you're slowly gathering extra spice, and you or someone else can go there to collect that extra spice. That's nice. That's fine. I don't feel like it's necessary. We all get our opportunity to gain spice at some point in the game, and usually a pretty big pile of it. Everyone else is not going to want to go there because it gives you an intrigue card, which is very powerful. And on top of that, it's putting a space onto the board that's not typically factored into the larger strategic play of the game. And because worker placement zones are different from things like intrigue cards, which do flow in and out of your hand, I don't think it lends itself to larger and deeper strategic play.
No, not at all.
So he's on my bad list.
Yep, I would agree with you on that one.
Okay.
He's not on mine, but he's definitely down in the bottom.
I think this is your last one.
This is my last one, and I think you're going to give me some pushback on this one.
Am I? Why?
It's not obvious. I mean, she's not on your favorite list, but I think you kind of enjoyed playing with this leader last game that we played.
No,
It was Chani.
Yeah, no, No, I was compelled by her, and I spent the entire game doing what I normally do when I play with a new leader, especially with an intriguing mechanic. Read through her, and then I'll explain my result.
Right. So, Tactician, whenever you retreat or lose any number of troops from the conflict...
Did you know you hated her before you chose her for me?
No.
You learned it while I was playing?
I wanted to see what she would do.
Okay.
I was intrigued by... just like you. I was intrigued by what she would do.
You just didn't want to try it yourself.
I wanted to do Piter.
You watched me try it.
I wanted to do Piter de Vries so badly.
All right. I was just concerned that you gave me a character you knew you hated.
Oh, no. I hadn't played with her. I hadn't played with this character yet. Lose any number of troops in the conflict. Advance your tactics token. So you have this lovely track up here. That many spaces, earning rewards as you reach them. So you can, through losing troops in conflict or through retreating troops in conflict, you can gain extra spice, you can gain extra water. Reset the token after reaching the end of the track. You're going to be from here because we're going to ignore this whole 6-player thing. The Signet Ring ability, Fedaykin Maneuver. You can retreat any number of your troops, which again interacts with that track. Or if you happen to have 2 influence with the Fremen, which you should, you can spend a water to draw 2 cards. I like her Signet Ring ability. Like, it's giving me something as long as I've got the influence. But if I don't have the influence yet, it gives me so little to retreat the troops. Like, okay, if I retreat 2 troops and I'm starting here, I get nothing.
When I play a new character, I play a new character. I try to embody, and I try to spend the duration of the game, whether or not I win or lose. I try to win, but I don't care if I win or lose. If I feel like I've really, truly explored the mechanics that they're introducing me to with a new character, I'm satisfied. And I do say, I'm satisfied with having played her, and I can confirm that I don't like her.
Yeah.
Here's why. I was retreating at least once per combat, and that was hard to do.
Yeah, you want to be in combat for this game.
I was losing troops every combat, and I found myself going down this track. I gained 1 spice, a couple rounds in, 2 rounds in. That was nice. That was all right. Gained a water, a few more rounds late. Very end of the game, I gained 1 more spice, I think like a turn before it was over. I had plenty of spice by that point, didn't matter at all. Never once touched the water track again. Water's the hardest thing in the world to come by. And so this market that I spent the duration of the game trying to move down this track, sacrificed other advantageous plays to put troops out and retreat troops back, to try to get this ebb and flow going, gave me 1 water. And the ability for my Signet Ring wants me to spend that most valuable, precious resource to draw 2 cards. So in essence, what it did is it gave me a controllable draw 2 cards at the sacrifice of other tactical plays. It was not worth the time investment.
Yeah.
I want this track to be filled with other little bonus things, or be shorter, or allow me to, like, if I lose 4 troops, let me move 4 spaces. Something different than what it did, because what it did right now was 1 up, 1 back, 1 up, 1 back. and I never went through the cycle. If it allows me to reset, I should reset a few times. That's much more satisfying than just going to the end and never hitting it again.
Yep, I agree with you.
So, there you have it.
Yep. I don't have any more on my list. Do you have any?
I do. I have Feyd.
Oh, I was debating putting Feyd here.
He has a very similar complaint to what I just said about Chani. I have played him. I thought he would be interesting. I thought he would be cool. However, he bottomed out. Remember how I said, like, I didn't like that this track didn't let me circle back around?
Well, it doesn't let you circle back around.
Got me to the end, and then midway through the game, the whole system shut down, and I had a dead character, which I guess makes sense for his lore, because he dies halfway through a movie.
Spoiler alert.
What?
Spoiler alert?
Who said what? What happened?
What?
Okay. I'm angry. Devious strength. It's his fault. Reveal turn, recall a spy. Spies are valuable. 2 blades are not as valuable as a spy. You should keep your spies on the board. Personal training. Move your Feyd token 1 space to the right on your training track, earning the reward on the new space. You could gain a coin, discard a card, discard a card, discard a card, gain a cube,
Trash a card.
and trash a card, trash a card, trash a card, gain a cube, and gain a spy. Or you could go down the track to gain a spy, trash a card, gain a spy, gain 2 spies, gain a cube, gain a spy. So you either are getting a ton of spy, which the guy is telling you to spend for swords, which is not a good worthwhile use of spies.
Not at all.
Or you're trashing pretty darn quickly 3 cards from your early deck.
Which I'm okay with, and it's why he's not in my bottom.
What are you replacing those cards with? That is so fast. This is early game trashing. That is so fast to just kick a bunch of cards out of your deck. I like trashing. I like dumping cards. But you need to get to like mid-game before you start exiting them. And you're going to be drawing a signet ring and deciding which pathway you go down really early on.
That's true.
So like by the end of, by the end of combat 2 and 3, I was already towards the end here. I'd already drawn my signet ring. I was cycling through my deck. Because when you trash, you also initiate by proxy an extra draw up of your signet ring because you're closing your deck down. You're going to hit it more often.
That's true.
So by round 3 of the game, I was at the end, and I like literally checked the rulebook to see if I could circle back around or just keep going on like a helix pattern or something. No, it just ends. It's just over. He's just dead. He's got a vibrating blade and no life in him.
Spoiler alert.
I was really disappointed. I thought I actually liked the character. I think he was cool. I thought the track was cool. I wanted it.
I wanted it to be better.
If it would circle, I think it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I wonder how balanced that would be if it would to circle. I almost want to try that at some point, but I'm not sure I want to put in the investment.
I feel like if it would circle, it would actually become challenging because you have so many discards to hit. And so I want it to circle. And I want you to have to move the cube because then you're going to have a very cold deck, and you're going to have to be very mindful of when you utilize your signet ring, when you take advantage of its ability, when you want to move to get a spy, you're putting yourself in a position where you're going to have to get rid of something from your deck the very next time you draw it up. And sometimes your signet ring is the best access you have to the wider spaces on the board. I think if I play him ever again, I'm going to house rule that I can circle, and I'm going to see what it does.
Intriguing.
So, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. This is a long video. I had a lot of fun discussing things.
Absolutely.
I think part of the issue is we haven't talked through these beforehand, so we're actually just having a lot of fun comparing notes and talking about our strategy and reliving this game. One cool thing, I'm going to make a dedicated video on this, but one very interesting fun fact for those of you that have stayed tuned to this point. The way the brain works, the way neuroplasticity in the brain works, we're starting to realize that one of the ways you can encourage and perfect a skill is not only through hands-on active engagement in said skill, but it's actually also through what's called active and directed imagination. So watching a gameplay video, thinking through a strategy, imagining and visualizing the turns that you would take and how you'd process and how you'd play a game is not only a good way to just gain extemporary knowledge, but also wires the brain, neuroplasticity-wise, rewrites the brain so that when you engage in said task, you are slightly better at. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of not playing a video game for 3 weeks, but having been, you've been thinking about Mario Kart, you had some dreams about Mario Kart, you watched your friend play Mario Kart, and you sit down at the controller and suddenly you're better at Rainbow Road than you've ever been previously. It's that type of idea. One of the primary examples we see for this is a guy that was in the political system in Israel, but he was in a prison. I don't think it was a concentration camp. He was in a government prison for years beforehand, and he actively visualized and imagined a game of chess and maintained his sanity in isolated confinement by playing chess against himself and holding the pieces in position in his mind to finish the game. When he got out of prison, not only was his sanity and mind healthier than it had been not than it had been previously, but healthier than the average person who's being released. But also, a grand champion came to the Israeli parliament or Israeli government officials, and he was the only person. He played against the equivalent of Netanyahu, played against the president, played against all these people because they thought it would be fun. The only person to beat him was this guy that had spent 5 years or so of his life visualizing and imagining an active game of chess in his mind.
Interesting.
So, if you've made it to this point, you're setting yourself up for a really good victory. And we're having fun doing the same. Our brains are rewarded for exploring and thinking through strategies and comparing notes in a way that isn't assumed. Whatever the case, though, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Take advantage of all the oxytocin you can. So take pleasure in life. Be curious and generous with the way that you delight in the world around you, because that helps break down the neurological links that you have established and refined in your brain and opens up the opportunity for plasticity. It's one of the most powerful things that a new child does. It releases a ton of oxytocin into your brain and allows you to reinvent yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye.